I'm Alice. About a year ago, Steve and I got married and purchased a newly built house. The house was in Steve's name, but we split the cost 50-50. We talked about having a couple of kids and decided to get a 3-bedroom house. One day, I actually don't want to have kids. Rachel says life will be easier without them. He told me so out of the blue. If she doesn't want kids, that's her problem. It has nothing to do with us. I think we should try for a baby. I know your parents want grandkids. I tried to persuade him to reconsider about having kids. But Rachel said. He hesitated. Rachel, my sister-in-law, was a very manipulative woman. Steve never stood up to her and he just did whatever she told him to do. Rachel lived alone in an apartment just 2 stations away from our house. She was married before but divorced within 6 months. My parents-in-law lived in the country, so we only got to see them around Thanksgiving and Christmas. They were very worried about Rachel being alone. She is your only sister, so please look after her and help her out. They would often tell Steve. But there should be a limit to everything. According to Rachel, the location of our house was very convenient for her work. Right after we bought our house, she started coming over to stay frequently. This house is so nice, I love it. It's in Steve's name, which means it's mine too, right? Hearing this, Steve gave her a spare key to our house. I wouldn't mind if she visited occasionally. But giving her a spare key after she said something like that was absurd. After she left, my husband and I had a big argument. But Rachel hinted that she wanted a spare key. I couldn't understand him at all. Since then, Rachel started using one of the spare bedrooms as her own. She brought her belongings in a large suitcase and started staying over whenever she wanted. She wouldn't even let us know in advance if she was coming. There was a night she couldn't get in because I had the security chain on and was sound asleep. I can't get in. Can you open the door? Hurry up and let me in. All the neighbors could hear her yelling outside. She leaves the aircon on in the living room, even when leaving. What a waste of money, especially when no one was home during the daytime. Could you at least turn the aircon off when you leave the house? No way. It will be hot when I come back. She just wouldn't listen. I complained to Steve numerous times, and even spoke to my in-laws once out of desperation. Well, Mom and Dad asked me to be nice to her. So that's what I'm doing. He would blame his parents. Alice, we'd be appreciated if you could be a little more understanding. Rachel is still struggling to get over her divorce. That was what my in-laws said to me. Rachel had no common sense. Because no one said anything to her when she was wrong, Rachel became very selfish and did whatever she wanted to do. Hey, there is no more wine left in your fridge. Can you get me some more tomorrow when you go shopping? She loved alcohol. Beer, wine. Anything. I was taught never to enter someone else's kitchen or to open their fridge without permission. But clearly she wasn't. She would open our fridge and eat and drink whatever she wanted. It didn't matter to her if it was an expensive wine we saved for special occasions. Even writing my name on it wouldn't stop her from drinking it. She wouldn't even do the simple task. She wouldn't clean up the mess she made. Beer cans were left scattered around. She would take the food out of the fridge and never put them back. She wouldn't even do the dishes. Yet, she has the audacity to say, Alice, I prefer pale ale to lager. And no cheap wines, please. I don't like anything under $20 a bottle. I would go and buy them reluctantly and give her the receipt. Why should I pay for them? You both drink them too. She would refuse to pay a cent. She would just walk into my wardrobe without asking if she wanted to borrow my clothes. She never vacuumed and mopped the house. The bathroom was always left soaking wet. Staying here means I don't have to spend on food or clean my bedroom. I love it. She was happy, but I was under a lot of stress. Oh, well. That was all Steve could say whenever I complained to him about his sister. It was so frustrating to know how useless he was. I wanted a divorce, but at the same time I wondered if I was being overreacting. I would often say to myself, if it weren't for his sister, everything would be fine between Steve and I. One weekend when I went to my parents' house, my brother, Mick, happened to be there. So I talked to him about my problems with Steve and his sister. Mick loved mountain climbing and was usually out on some mountain on weekends, so I would hardly see him. A man who can't protect his wife is no good. And remember, in the mountains, if you sense danger, you retreat immediately. That was his advice. But this is different. And you're not even married. Well, that is why I can see things from a different perspective, he said, encouraging me to divorce. I never imagined that would be our last conversation. He died in a snowy mountain soon after, while trying to rescue someone who was lost. Some days after his funeral, my parents said to me, "Alice, your brother left a note, saying that you were the sole beneficiary of his will. Maybe he knew you would need some money." Then they handed me a significant amount of money. It was a hastily written note that was found in his pocket when the rescuers retrieved his body from the mountain. It was possibly not legally binding, but my parents insisted. "Don't worry about us. We've already saved up for our retirement, so you should take it all." It turned out I was also the beneficiary of his life insurance. Neither my parents nor I had any complaints about that. After all, it wasn't much that I received from his life insurance. Due to the weather condition, the search for my brother took a while, and we had to hire some professional rescuers. We also reimbursed his mountaineering friends who volunteered to help. Live your life without regrets. That was also what Mick wrote on the note. He told me to run away at the first sign of danger. Yet, he didn't think of his own safety when helping others. I was proud of him, but was heartbroken over his death at the same time. I was still grieving over his loss. "Hey, your brother went missing in the mountain, didn't he? It must have cost your family a fortune to hire professional rescuers." "What a hassle," Rachel blurted out. I was appalled by her rudeness but replied, "But he had life insurance." I was determined to defend my brother's honor. "Oh really? That's good then. So, did you get any inheritance?" I just wanted to tell her to shut up. It was none of her business. "No. My parents did." "Oh come on. You must have gotten something." "I know it was a big insurance payout." She kept prying. Steve was playing a game on his phone, pretending not knowing what was being said. But I could tell he was listening to our conversation as his fingers stopped moving. I could never forget the day I received the call from my mother about Mick. I was frantic. "I can't stay here and do nothing. I am thinking to go to the actual place Mick went missing," I said to Steve. "But who's going to cook, clean, and do the laundry while you're gone? There's nothing you could do there anyway, you'll just be in the way." He objected. I thought to myself, like sister, like brother. They were concerned only about themselves. It was probably true that there wasn't much I could do. But what bothered me most was that Steve didn't even care how I felt. Losing a family member was a painful thing. I wished Steve had been kind and considerate towards my family and myself, just like he was towards his own sister. There's hardly anything left after paying the rescue team and after reimbursing Mick's friends. Really? That's dumb. They should have done it for free. I tried to laugh it off, not wanting to continue the conversation with her. Then she went on to say, "Probably this will be a good time for me to move in here. I've been thinking about permanently moving in with you guys." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Wait a minute. Why are you bringing this up all of a sudden? Say something to her." "Well, if she wants to do that, I'm okay with it." I couldn't understand why Steve was so submissive to his sister. Maybe, as a younger brother, it had become normal for him to be taken advantage of by his sister. But still, he should have stood up to his sister for me. "You must be feeling extremely lonely after losing your brother. We could have thrown a fancy party to cheer you up, if you had received inheritance." "Oh, didn't your brother leave you anything valuable?" "No." Her insensitivity was so astounding. I nearly exploded with anger. "Oh, well, that's disappointing. Anyway, Steve seems to be okay with me living here. Of course, I will pay you." How about $300, including monthly rent and the living expenses? But $300 is nowhere near enough. If you're going to live with us, shouldn't we split the costs for food, drinks, and all the bills? What are you talking about? I'm offering to live with you because I know you are feeling extremely alone and that you need some company. I am just trying to help you. And you are asking me to pay for the bills and everything else? That's just low. Oh, and I heard from my brother you spend a lot on the funeral donations. If you could afford that much money to give away, surely you could afford to let me stay here for free. I never thought Steve would gossip about such things to his sister. This conversation is going nowhere, you two just do whatever you want. I'm getting a divorce. I'm not your housekeeper. Both Steve and Rachel looked dumbfounded, but I ignored them. Then I left there and went straight to my parents' house. I hired a lawyer and filed for divorce. Steve seemed shocked that I was the one initiating the divorce. He resisted and said he didn't want to separate. He didn't even understand why I was angry, which was part of our problems. During the mediation, he finally began to realize what he had done wrong. Although Rachel was the main cause of our problems, he was the one to be blamed. He did nothing to protect me from his sister. He was finally able to see that. And he apologized profusely. Please give me another chance. I want to make things right with you. But he was talking about me behind my back all of the time. He couldn't be trusted. I was wrong. I'm sorry. When he saw that I wasn't going to change my mind, he finally agreed to the divorce. Around this time, he was transferred to a different city, so he sold our house. He paid me back my share of the house purchase. As for Rachel, with nowhere else to stay, she returned to her apartment. I heard she got severe food poisoning from eating some old food, sitting in her fridge for a very long time, and was hospitalized. Everything that is happening to me right now is your fault. She accused me over the phone, so I just blocked her number. Later, I heard rumors that she was going to various singles events. Known as a troublemaker, she wasn't getting any attention from anybody. Years later, I remarried. My new husband was a very close friend of my brother's and had helped searching him in the mountain. He always cared for my parents and myself even after my brother was gone, and would often visit us, just to see if we were doing okay. My brother is no longer with us, and I miss him terribly. But there are many people who still remembers him. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to Mick's funeral. Even to this day, people say that to us if we see them around. I'm glad that my brother was loved by so many people. I really wish he were still alive. So I could tell him. Thank you, Mick.